Start stream. Let's see if it's going to work this time, guys. We're giving it a shot again. Give it a try there. We updated our stream key thinking maybe that'll work. Looks like we're going to get it. Hey, what about audio? Do we have audio? That is so weird how things get changed in your computer. You know, I had a completely different stream key and I've never changed it. What channel did they set me up on to go stream at? All right, so everybody's, all you guys can hear okay? Thank you, Tracy. All right. Yes, you guys sound too. All right, great. All right, now no echo. That's even better. Hearing you loud and clear. Great. All right, now let's go over here. Let's get started where I wanted to start at here. This is actually a lot earlier today, but I actually caught it just only when it was like an hour old there. This was Hezbollah releasing the footage of when they were using this missile to strike the Israeli vehicles there. And of course, what they were trying to show is that they were avoiding the civilian vehicle. I guess allegedly Israel claimed that a civilian vehicle was struck in this, and they're showing on here the civilian vehicle and the military vehicle and how they were able to hit the military vehicle without striking the civilian vehicle. That was what the purpose of this was all supposed to be. At any rate, though, it's also kind of a little bit nerve-wracking when you can see that close to the Israeli border, Hezbollah is able to fire in on Israeli positions there. At any rate, also former Congresswoman McKinney posted this here on her Twitter page earlier today. She's been on our broadcast before. Hezbollah chief says all Israeli forces at risk in case of a new attack on Lebanon. And by the way, I noticed I put this thing on there about a missing Qumran scroll. I'm going to get to that in just a little bit, so if you're tuning in for that purpose, just bear with me here. Anyway, Nasrallah is saying the leader of the Lebanese Hezbollah movement has warned Israel against any future attacks on Lebanon, saying that in case of such attack, all Israeli forces will be at risk. Saeed Hassan Nasrallah made the remarks in a televised speech on Monday, saying that Sunday's operation by Hezbollah fighters in which an armored Israeli vehicle was hit was meant to send a message to Israel that if you attack, then all your border and forces will be at risk. Hezbollah's Sunday attack came in response to an Israeli air raid last week that killed 2 of its fighters in Syria. You know, let me go back to that real quick, that particular image there. You know what's interesting about this is when they show the system that's being used there, it almost looks like the American system. And I think that they say it is a Russian system that was used, but still at the same token, let me back up just a little bit here. Wow, you don't get a good enough glimpse of this thing to really make that statement for sure, but it almost looks like an American-made type. Makes me wonder if they didn't pick that up when they were over in Syria, seeing as the U.S. is so busy arming all the jihadists over in that region. Can't say, don't know, but anyway. Also, the Middle East Eye, how Netanyahu is using religion to shape Israel's election. Yes, he is. More and more, the only way Netanyahu can win is to bring in the ultra hard right Orthodox Jews into the ministry. And it says, although questions about imposition of religious laws on the general, hey, let me blow this up so you can really see this, guys. Let's see. Religious laws in the general public have always been a part of Israel's political discourse. The 17th of September election will be the first in which religious questions will top the agenda. How have all other issues, first and foremost, the occupation of Palestine has been pushed into the background? Avigdor Lieberman, once Benjamin Netanyahu's far-right ally, fired the opening shot after April 9th election when he refused to compromise with ultra-Orthodox parties and prevented Netanyahu from forming a coalition government. Lieberman dropped a bomb indicating that the decades-old alliance between the religious and secular right in Israel could be brought to an end. Ultra-Orthodox parties have not always been associated with the right wing, but cheap housing in the illegal West Bank colonies has lured them further and further in this direction. Whole point is they're going to bring it all together. Why? Because as we see here on Breaking Israel News, this whole issue with the Sanhedrin is really starting to take off as they are inviting the nations, the 70 nations, to join them for an animal sacrifice on the Mount of Olives, renewing Noah's covenant. You guys say there's not a Noahide law? Come on, wake up and smell the coffee. Yes, there is. It says here, and you shall declare to them that thus said Hashem, I am going to take Bnei Yisrael from among the nations, he's quoting the scripture there, and gather them from every quarter and bring them to their own land. But he didn't say anything about starting up the Noahide laws, did he? No, because it's not in the Bible. It is only a Talmudic law. You know, I told my wife, I said, look, we need to film from downstairs in front of, well, I mean, I've got a bookshelf here full of books as well and stuff like that. She has another area full of books. But we want to take and share with people to see some of the sources we study from. As always said, you know, when people order the Talmud online, whether they get a Babylonian Jerusalem Talmud, they get one book in their hands and they think they've got the Talmud. And I always say, no, it's like the Encyclopedia Britannica. And but we, even like in our Talmud that we have the one that has the information that's there that you don't get in any of your sources there. I want you guys to see some of the information that we have at our disposal there. This is not hearsay. It's not I have to go look it up online, although we do look it up online so that it looks better on the screen for you guys. It's what we have at our disposal. Even Qumran scrolls, information, like I can give you one example. This is one, and this is also in a lot of volumes, and the only way you'll probably ever get a hold of a book like this is paying extraordinary amounts of money. But these are like Qumran scrolls where we can actually, you know, you get that, you can get the translations, I can read it, I can compare the translations that are done in there with the different fragments and other pieces. In fact, I'm working on right now on the Samuel scroll. I'm going to order that particular document as well. And you got to keep in mind, a lot of times that you don't actually have every one of the fragments in those books. It's commentary, things like that. But anyway, this is what we do. We research. That's why we're called DeNoon Institute of Biblical Research. We do a lot of researching on these different things. Anyway, the nations are invited for animal sacrifice on the Mount of Olives, and we're talking about heads of state. We're talking about, of course, there's not going to be 70 nations there, but they are gaining headway. September 25th, the anniversary day of which Jewish tradition holds the world was created. The Sanhedrin is holding a conference for the emerging organization of 70 nations. The conference will culminate in an animal sacrifice made by representatives of the nations on the Mount of Olives, in which they will renew the covenant made by Noah upon leaving the ark. You know, the apocalypse of Elijah said that if they offered those sacrifices, they would do it in the last day, and it would be an abomination when they do it. He also talked about, and when they say it's the apocalypse of Elijah, I have really wondered if that document was not written by John the Baptist. It talks a lot about the Messiah, Christ being the Messiah. It talks a lot about the Antichrist. And of course, as Yeshua said, he was the Elijah that was foretold to come. And so I have wondered if he is, if that book is about if it wasn't written by John the Baptist himself. Can't say it's so or not, I don't know. There are a lot of different opinions out there on that, but at any rate, he spoke about these things, and he really scolded the pastors, the shepherds of the flock, because he said they're going to allow them to bring in the Antichrist. The Antichrist will be able to do all kinds of miracles. Only one miracle, he said in that book, in that scroll, that it says he can't do, and that is he can't raise the dead. And I couldn't help but think of how many people will fall for this. What a shame. At any rate, that's going on there. What I wanted to share with you, though, is kind of a little interesting thing, because I am working on this conference, Pennsylvania conference, which is 2 weeks away, less than 2 weeks away now. And we are waiting back. My wife said that the sister up there, or I shouldn't just say sister, but the group that is there in Pennsylvania, they were working on trying to get a larger facility. We saw that right now, and of course, those of you where we said approved already in the comments section, you are approved to come, even if they can't change the venue. They're trying to change the venue because we see in the comments on our website, IsraeliNewsLive.org, Pennsylvania Conference, there we have 101 people that are wanting to attend the conference. And they're working on trying to get a larger facility because they're already, the group there is, I think, about 30 people in their group that is going to be there as well. So we're getting close to 150 people that would like to attend. So we're looking to see if that is possible. If so, I've already approved the comments so that we could see what we had. And then if we do get a larger facility, I will go back based on the first ones that had logged in there, and I will send a note in there to reply to each one of you approved. But if you already see on the website that I have put on there approved for 1 or for 2 or for 3, whatever your group may have been, then you are approved to go. And I just have not posted the address of the event yet because we're still waiting for that information as well. Anyway, it is the 14th of September, Athens, Pennsylvania. I wanted to share this with you because as I'm working on this, this path of the serpent, or the Nephlim might be a good way to put it as well, I am looking very deep in all different directions. I already know by God's grace all the way to the book of Revelation how Satan has been working his way through, coming up to the time where the Antichrist will actually gain power. By the way, I know some people thought, oh, Steve's leaning to Trump being the Antichrist or Jared Kushner being the Antichrist. No, I don't. Especially not Trump. Trump's bad enough as it is. But there is a place scripturally that I believe that the current administration is influencing, but I don't believe that they are the Antichrist at all, not even Jared Kushner per se. As I did mention, there are some that do believe that he is. In order for this individual to be able to do the things that they're going to do, I do believe it'll be a cross breeding in there with the fallen angels, or as I've been told by Israeli intelligence, a blending of the DNA with some type of AI technology, because this Antichrist is to be able to do the miraculous things that Jesus did, including walking on water, if these different sources, I just like to call them ancient documents that are out there, if they are accurate. We anticipate that even from our own canon. But as I was running across my research in here, I came across the Qumran scroll on the book of Samuel, and oddly enough, 1 Samuel chapter 11, and if you go to chapter 10, if we switch over to chapter 10, go all the way down to verse 27 here in chapter 10, but certain base fellows said, how shall this man save us? And they despised him and brought him no present, but he was as one that held his peace. Then we get into chapter 11, verse 1. Then Nachash the Ammonite came up and encamped against Jabesh Gilead, and all the men of Jabesh said unto Nachash, make a covenant with us, and we will serve you. All right? But there's a verse that is missing in between chapter 10, verse 27, the last verse there, and chapter 11, verse 1. It's in the Qumran scroll. Now, if you do the research on this, you will find out that, and this is, I'm showing you the Qumran scroll right now here. This is where we're looking at that. It may look like gibberish to you guys, but I'll try to give you a little idea of what we're looking at here. Boy, I need to get a stick one. It's just far to reach here. Right here is where you have the Nachash Melech B'nai Ammon. All right, this is the important passage there. Well, it's actually the entire part here is important because, like I said, it's not in the writings there. Now, I believe that this is part of the Septuagint. I think it's an agreement in part with the Septuagint, but still not completely. And but in the Masoretic text, totally what you see here is not there. Now, the first part, I think, is what's important, and I think this is really important because the way they translate this, they're only transliterating as if the king's name is Nachash, which is the word serpent. All right? Now, even though they have to put in, because of the fragment, the letter nun here, they put vav nun, being en Nachash, melech b'nei Ammon, okay, and Nachash, king of the sons of Ammon, and he goes on to speak about what they were actually doing to the children of Israel. But, so there's two things we've got to look at here. One is the fact that they say his name is Nachash. I believe it's saying exactly what it says in Hebrew language. I think it says, and the serpent king of the children of Ammon. It's not just a name. It's what he is. If you remember, the Ammonites, just like the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Canaanites, the Amorites, all these nations had intermingled their seed with the Nephlim, with the fallen ones. And in the writing here, the Ammonite king is called Nachash, or serpent king. I think he gets his name, even if let's say if it's a proper noun, let's say it's considered to be his actual name, Nachash Melech. All right, he is called King Nachash, or King Serpent. It would have been because of his lineage through the Nephlim. Now, oddly enough, if you also look in the Qumran scrolls, and we look at the writings of Moses' father-in-law, he writes a book that is found in the Qumran scrolls where he writes of a large serpent angel that comes to him that speaks about the fight and the struggle between Christ, who is the king of righteousness, and between the serpent himself. But he regards the serpent, he had a figure like a serpent, but he was an angel that was fighting for his life. And but I just thought it was interesting because in my research, the way I'm seeing these things here is that the fallen angels take on different shapes, different forms, just like we see, biblically speaking, in some of the literature in our Bible, we have, one has the face of a man, one has the face of an ox, one has the face of a lion, okay? So it's not uncommon to see animal figures, biblically speaking. I'm not saying that these are the bad ones when I give these examples here. So it just kind of makes me wonder if that is not what's there. But let me just show you, though, when you get something that's missing. In the Qumran scrolls, and I don't know how well you guys can see this on your screen right here, but this is the actual verse that is missing that was in the book of Samuel in Qumran. It says, Now Nachash, king of the Ammonites, had been grievously oppressing the Gadites and Reubenites. He would gouge out the right eye of each of them and would not grant Israel a deliverer. No one was left of the Israelites across the Jordan whose right eye Nachash, king of the Ammonites, had not gouged out. But there were 7,000 men who had escaped from the Ammonites and had entered into Jabesh Gilead. So we read in our own Bible that they didn't make the agreement, so they didn't lose their eye. But according to the Qumran scroll, all but 7,000 of them did lose their right eye, which is kind of interesting because if we look at what's supposed to happen in tribulation, one of the tortures that they will do in the tribulation period is to put out your eyes. Just like that we see with Samson. What did they do to Samson? They put out his eyes. So this seems like the devil, that's one of his little evil ways of doing things. At any rate, this is going to be an amazing meeting, I do believe. And like I said, we're going to be getting into the image of the beast. And of course, I go into this too because when we look in the book of Revelation, coming up out of the sea is this beast that comes up out of the sea. And it has the 7 heads and the 10 horns, etc., right? I don't know how many of you may be aware of this, but do you know that Leviathan has multiple heads. And of course, he is the beast that comes out of the sea. So it'll be an interesting time. Those of you that come to Pennsylvania, yes, I am going to make a DVD of this particular message, and I cannot release this on YouTube because it will be very graphic. So we are going to make a DVD of that particular broadcast. I believe on our Patreon channel, we'll be loading one of Yana's messages, but the other will be turned into a DVD as well. In fact, it will probably do the entire conference in the DVD. This message that I'm doing myself, though, will be 2 parts at the conference. And, of course, Yana will be doing 2 parts as well. And we never seem to get done in one day. So it's going to be a very, very lengthy day. At any rate, I have talked way too much. Let me just say good night to all of you. Laila Tov. Good night. And trust all is a blessing for you. And because we know so many of you guys would love to be there, so we definitely want to make sure you're aware of this information here. And because of what I'm going to be saying, I know it would be too risky to put it on air. So we'll make it into a DVD, and I hate selling things. It just really irritates me to do stuff like that. But I just don't know of a safe way to get it to you otherwise. And maybe eventually we'll try to put it up on what's that channel called? BitChute. But I know a lot of people don't like to go on BitChute. I don't know, there's something, I guess, about the way you have to register, so that seems to be a trouble as well. So anyway, we'll just do a DVD, and maybe that way to bless people, and also because we need to get it in people's hands. All right, so good evening, all of you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support of the broadcast. Again, if you do want to come to the conference and you're able to, at least go to our website, IsraeliNewsLive.org, make a notation that you're interested in coming still. I'm hoping to know today or tomorrow. Of course, we're dealing with what is this hurricane going to do down here. I know that the models are saying it's not going to hit here, but I look at it and I kind of wonder. So, I still don't think, regardless of what it does, I don't think it'll be too big of an impact here where we're at here in Orlando. But we do thank you for your prayers, all of you that have been praying, and we appreciate that tremendously. So, but leave us a comment on the website on the Pennsylvania Conference if you are wanting to attend. That way, if there's going to be any more people wanting to come, we can see what size facility that might be able to be gotten. And if it couldn't get any larger, then we'll just have to leave it the way it is. I'm Stephen DeNoon with Israeli News Live.